"Sir, step away from those doors." The command stopped Marcus Bennett halfway up the courthouse steps, his leather briefcase in one hand and a folder of legal documents tucked beneath his other arm. He turned slowly toward Officer Ryan Cole, who had moved several feet across the granite walkway to block his path toward the entrance. Marcus glanced at his watch. 9:21 in the morning. His hearing began at 9:30. 9 minutes. Around them, downtown traffic rolled steadily through the intersection while attorneys, clerks, defendants, and courthouse employees moved through the tall glass doors beneath the stone columns. Marcus looked back at Cole. "Is there a problem, officer?" Cole studied him from his polished black shoes to his navy suit, then lingered on the briefcase. "What business do you have inside the courthouse?" Marcus kept his expression neutral. "I am counsel in a hearing that begins in 9 minutes." Cole gave a small nod that did not look like acceptance. "Identification." Marcus placed the briefcase beside his shoe and reached carefully into his jacket. "Certainly." He removed his driver's license and handed it over. Cole examined it. Marcus Bennett, 41 years old. Local address. Nothing unusual. Nothing that explained why Cole continued holding the card instead of returning it. Two men in suits passed behind Marcus and walked directly through the courthouse entrance. Cole barely glanced at them. Marcus noticed. He said nothing. "What kind of hearing?" Cole asked. "Civil matter." "Who are you representing?" Marcus's eyes narrowed slightly. "My client is expecting me inside. If you need to confirm that I am an attorney, I have my state bar identification." Cole looked at him again. "You carrying that with you?" "Yes." Marcus produced the card and handed it over. Cole compared the name with the driver's license. Same name. Same photograph. Another group crossed the steps. A woman carrying a legal pad nodded casually toward Cole as she entered. No questions. No request for identification. The clock above the courthouse doors continued moving. 9:22. Imagine standing outside a building where your profession is practiced every day while holding proof of that profession in your hand, only to realize that the person questioning you has already decided proof might not be enough. Marcus had spent nearly 17 years practicing law. He knew what questions sounded like when someone genuinely wanted information. He also knew what questions sounded like when someone wanted their first assumption confirmed. "This could belong to anybody," Cole said, turning the bar card between his fingers. Marcus stared at him. "It has my name and photograph on it." Cole's mouth tightened. "I am verifying that." "Then verify it." Marcus's voice remained controlled. He had argued before judges who interrupted every sentence. He had questioned hostile witnesses. He had spent hours negotiating with attorneys who mistook volume for strength. Calm was not passivity. Calm was discipline. "Officer, my hearing begins at 9:30. You have my driver's license and my bar identification. I also have my courthouse credential and hearing notice. If you need confirmation, call the clerk." Cole shifted closer to the entrance, making it unmistakably clear that Marcus would not be walking through yet. "If everything checks out, this will not take long." Marcus looked at his watch again. 9:23. 7 minutes. "It has already taken long enough for you to verify my name twice." Cole's expression hardened. "Do not tell me how to do my job." Marcus took a slow breath. "I am telling you when I am required to do mine." For the first time, several people nearby stopped walking. A courthouse employee standing inside the glass doors looked toward them. Marcus could feel attention gathering around the steps, that subtle shift when a private exchange becomes something strangers begin watching. Cole lifted Marcus's bar card again. "You are saying you are an attorney appearing here this morning." Marcus looked directly into his eyes. "I am not saying it. The identification in your hand verifies it." 9:24. 6 minutes. Marcus could see the courthouse security camera mounted above the entrance. He could see the clerk inside looking toward him. What he could not see was Judge Eleanor Whitman several floors above, preparing to take the bench for a 9:30 hearing and expecting Counselor Marcus Bennett to be standing at counsel table when she did. 15 minutes earlier, Marcus Bennett had been sitting in the driver's seat of his dark gray sedan 2 blocks from the courthouse, reading the same paragraph for the third time. Not because he did not understand it. He understood every sentence. He was making certain there was nothing opposing counsel could use to turn a simple question into uncertainty. Morning sunlight reflected from the office buildings across the street while commuters moved along the sidewalks carrying coffee cups, laptop bags, and the hurried expressions of people already thinking about their next appointment. Marcus checked the dashboard clock. 9:09. 21 minutes until the hearing. Enough time. He closed the folder and rested both hands on the steering wheel for a moment. 17 years of practicing law had taught him that preparation was rarely dramatic. It was repetition. Dates checked twice. Citations checked 3 times. Names pronounced correctly. Documents placed exactly where his hand would expect to find them. The case that morning involved a small family-owned construction company fighting a contract dispute that threatened nearly 30 jobs. Marcus represented the company. There would be no television cameras waiting inside. No reporters crowding the courthouse steps. Just a client depending on him to walk into Courtroom 4 and be ready when Judge Eleanor Whitman called the matter. Marcus opened his briefcase and performed one final check. Hearing notice. Motion papers. Exhibits. State bar identification. Courthouse credential. Everything was there. Judge Whitman's name appeared across the top of the hearing notice, directly beneath the 9:30 time. Marcus had appeared before her several times during the previous 5 years. She was demanding, precise, and famously uninterested in excuses. Marcus respected that. She expected attorneys to know the record, know the law, and arrive before the clock reached the scheduled minute. His phone vibrated in the center console. A message from his client, David Harris, appeared on the screen. "We are upstairs. Thank you again for being here." Marcus typed a short reply. "I am on my way in." He placed the phone inside his coat pocket, stepped from the car, and adjusted his navy tie against the cool morning air. The courthouse stood about 2 blocks ahead, its broad granite steps rising toward tall columns and glass entrance doors. Marcus had walked those steps dozens of times. He knew the security officers by sight. He knew which elevator moved fastest before 10 in the morning. He even knew that the coffee kiosk across the street usually ran out of blueberry muffins by noon. It was an ordinary place in the geography of his professional life. That was why nothing about the walk felt important. Not yet. At the first intersection, Marcus waited for the pedestrian signal beside 2 other attorneys discussing a deposition. Both were white men wearing dark suits and carrying leather bags much like his. When the signal changed, all 3 crossed toward the courthouse. One of the men moved ahead and climbed the steps. A uniformed officer near the entrance glanced at him and allowed him to continue without interruption. The second attorney followed. Same brief glance. Same open path. Marcus was several yards behind them. Officer Ryan Cole turned his head. His attention settled on Marcus and remained there. Marcus noticed the look, but kept walking. He had learned long ago not to turn every uncomfortable glance into a confrontation. Sometimes a look was only a look. Sometimes the meaning revealed itself one question at a time. Marcus reached into his coat and touched the edge of his courthouse credential, preparing to present it at security as usual. 9:16. 14 minutes remained. He climbed the first few granite steps. Cole shifted his position. Marcus climbed another. Cole continued watching. Behind the glass doors, courthouse clerk Rachel Foster crossed the lobby carrying a stack of files toward the elevators. She briefly saw Marcus outside and recognized him from previous hearings, but she kept moving. Marcus reached the upper walkway. He could see the security checkpoint through the entrance now. He could also see another attorney passing Cole without being stopped. Then Cole stepped away from his position and moved directly into Marcus's path. Marcus slowed. The distance between them narrowed to several feet. The courthouse doors were close enough for Marcus to see his own reflection in the glass. He adjusted his grip on the briefcase and waited for Cole to speak. In that moment, Marcus still believed the interruption would last perhaps 10 seconds. A greeting, a routine question, maybe a request to see identification. He had all of it ready. What he did not know was that within minutes, he would hand over one piece of proof after another, and each answer would somehow create another question. Officer Ryan Cole stopped directly in Marcus Bennett's path and let the silence stretch for a moment before speaking. "Where are you headed?" Marcus glanced toward the courthouse doors only a few feet away. Inside. Cole did not smile. "For what purpose?" "I have a hearing at 9:30. Marcus expected that to settle the matter. Instead, Cole's eyes moved over his Navy suit, leather briefcase, and folder of legal documents as though each item required its own explanation. "You work here." "I am an attorney." Cole looked toward the entrance, then back at Marcus. "Identification." Marcus reached into his jacket slowly and handed over his driver's license. Cole studied it while 2 attorneys approached from behind. One was a white woman carrying a laptop bag. The other was a white man balancing a coffee cup on top of a thick case file. Cole stepped slightly aside and allowed both to pass without asking either of them a question. Marcus watched them disappear through the glass doors. He looked back at Cole. "Is there a specific reason you stopped me?" Cole ignored the question. "Marcus Bennett." "Yes." "Address still current?" "Yes." "And you are saying you are an attorney?" Marcus felt something inside him tighten, not anger exactly, but recognition. The phrase mattered. "You were saying." It turned a fact into a claim before any evidence had even been considered. Marcus opened his wallet again. "Here is my state bar identification." Cole took it. The photograph matched. The name matched. Marcus waited. Cole turned the card over and examined the back. "How long have you had this?" "I have practiced law for 17 years. At this courthouse. I have appeared here many times." Cole looked toward Marcus's briefcase. "What is in there?" Marcus paused. "Legal files for my hearing." "Can you open it?" "Officer, you have my driver's license and my bar identification. If courthouse security needs to inspect my briefcase, I will follow the normal screening procedure inside." Cole's expression changed slightly. "I am asking you now." Marcus kept his voice measured. "And I am asking why." Another man in a suit walked past them toward the entrance. Cole did not stop him. Marcus followed the man with his eyes until the doors closed again. The difference was becoming difficult to dismiss as coincidence. "You stopped me after allowing several other attorneys through," Marcus said. "None of them were asked to prove why they were here." Cole's jaw tightened. "I decide who I need to speak with." "Based on what?" "Do you want to get inside for your hearing?" Marcus looked at his watch. 9:18. 12 minutes. "Yes." "Then cooperate." Marcus almost laughed at the word, but there was nothing amusing about it. He had cooperated. He had stopped. Answered. Produced identification. Produced professional credentials. Yet cooperation appeared to have no finish line. Imagine carrying proof of your profession in your own wallet and watching each piece of evidence become merely the price of receiving another question. Marcus reached into his briefcase and removed his courthouse credential without opening the legal files. This credential was issued for courthouse access. "My name is on it. My photograph is on it. You can verify it through security." Cole took the credential and placed all three cards together in his hand. Driver's license. State bar identification. Courthouse credential. 3 separate forms of identification. One name. One face. Marcus waited again. Cole did not move. "What exactly is still unclear?" Marcus asked. Cole glanced at the courthouse credential. "Credentials can be expired. Check the date." Cole checked it. "Valid." Marcus looked at the digital clock visible through the lobby. 9:19. 11 minutes. Inside, Rachel Foster stepped from the elevator and noticed Marcus still standing outside. This time she slowed. She recognized him immediately. She had processed filings from his office for years. Through the glass, she could see Cole holding Marcus's identification. Rachel began walking toward the entrance. Marcus could not see her yet. His attention remained on Cole. "You have verified my name 3 times, Marcus said. "You have a valid courthouse credential in your hand. What fact are you trying to establish?" Cole looked at him for a long moment. "I am trying to determine whether you have legitimate business here." Marcus lifted the hearing notice from his folder. At the top were the courtroom number, the scheduled time, and the name of Judge Eleanor Whitman. He held it where Cole could read it. "Then determine it." Marcus held the hearing notice steady between them. Officer Ryan Cole read the first line, then the courtroom number, then the scheduled time. 9:30. Judge Eleanor Whitman. Marcus Bennett listed as counsel for the plaintiff. For a moment, Marcus expected the encounter to end. Cole had his driver's license, his state bar identification, his valid courthouse credential. Now he had a hearing notice carrying the same name. For pieces of information, all pointed in the same direction. Cole handed back the notice, but kept the identification cards. "Where did you get this?" Marcus stared at him. "From the court." "You printed it yourself?" "My office printed a copy of the electronic notice issued by the court." Cole looked at the paper again. "So technically anyone could print one." There it was. Another answer transformed into another reason for doubt. Marcus glanced through the glass doors. Rachel Foster was approaching from inside the lobby, but a group entering through security briefly blocked his view. "Officer, you asked me to establish legitimate business here. That notice gives you the case, courtroom, time, judge, and my name." My courthouse credential is valid. My bar identification matches my driver's license. What else are you trying to establish? Cole shifted his stance. I need to be satisfied that everything is legitimate. Then verify it through courthouse security. I will decide how I verify it. Marcus checked his watch. 9:20. 10 minutes. The number seemed suddenly smaller than it had a moment before. A second uniformed officer approached from near the curb. His name tag read Brooks. Everything all right? Officer Kevin Brooks asked. Cole turned slightly toward him. I have a gentleman here claiming to be an attorney with a hearing upstairs. Marcus looked directly at Cole. I am not claiming to be an attorney. You are holding the identification that verifies it. Brooks glanced at the cards. Bar identification? Yes, Marcus said. Valid courthouse credential as well. Brooks looked at Cole as though expecting that information to resolve the issue. Cole continued. I am checking everything. Marcus could feel several people watching now. A pair of courthouse employees slowed near the entrance. A woman carrying a document box looked toward him, then quickly away. The humiliation was subtle because nobody had shouted. Nobody needed to. Being made into a public question could be quiet. Sometimes all it required was one person standing between you and a door while everyone else walked through it. Rachel finally reached the inside of the glass entrance. She recognized Marcus immediately and raised one hand slightly, trying to catch his attention. Cole stepped to one side, unintentionally blocking Marcus's view of her. What firm? Brooks asked. Marcus gave the name of his law office. And your client? Marcus paused. I am not discussing confidential case details on courthouse steps when you already have enough information to confirm why I am here. Cole's eyebrows lifted. Now you do not want to answer questions? I have answered every relevant question. Marcus's voice remained low. There is a difference between verification and making someone prove the same fact repeatedly. Brooks looked toward the hearing notice. We could call the clerk. Marcus immediately nodded. Exactly. Cole did not. Instead, he examined the courthouse credential again. Marcus watched him search for another uncertainty. Expiration date. Photograph. Name. Nothing. You understand why we have to be careful around a courthouse, Cole said. Of course I do, Marcus replied. That is why the courthouse issues credentials. You are holding mine. Brooks looked away for a moment, uncomfortable. Marcus checked the time again. 9:22. 8 minutes. Somewhere upstairs, his client was waiting. Somewhere beyond those doors, a courtroom was preparing to open. Marcus could almost hear Judge Whitman's familiar voice reminding counsel that scheduled time meant scheduled time. He looked at Cole. Call Rachel Foster in the clerk's office. She can confirm the hearing in less than a minute. Through the glass, Rachel was now only several yards away. She reached for the entrance door. Cole glanced toward the lobby, but turned back before recognizing her. Stay here while we finish checking this. Marcus took a slow breath. Officer Cole, every piece of evidence you asked for has confirmed exactly what I told you. Cole's expression remained firm. And you are still not going inside until I am satisfied. Marcus looked past him toward the courthouse clock. 9:23. 7 minutes. Then the glass door behind Cole began to open. The glass door opened and Rachel Foster stepped onto the courthouse walkway carrying a thin stack of case files against her chest. Her eyes moved first to Marcus, then to the identification card still in Officer Cole's hand. Mr. Bennett, she said. Marcus turned toward her. Good morning, Rachel. For one brief second, he thought the interruption was finally over. Rachel had worked in the clerk's office for years. She knew his face. She knew his firm. More importantly, she could confirm the hearing without speculation. We were wondering where you were, she said. Your client is already upstairs. Marcus glanced at Cole. I have been trying to get there. Rachel looked confused. Is something wrong? Cole answered before Marcus could. We are verifying his business inside the courthouse. Rachel's confusion deepened. He is counsel on the Harris matter. Marcus watched Cole carefully. There it was again. Confirmation. Direct this time. Not from a card. Not from a document. From a courthouse employee standing several feet away. Brooks looked toward Cole as though the obvious next step was to return the identification and let Marcus through. Cole did not. You personally know him? He asked Rachel. I recognize him. He has appeared here many times. But you do not know him personally. Rachel hesitated. Not socially, no. Cole nodded as though that distinction restored uncertainty. Marcus felt the last traces of patience becoming something colder. Officer, You told me you needed to verify that I had legitimate business here. The clerk has now confirmed my hearing. Cole looked at Rachel. Can you verify his bar status? Marcus stared at him. You are holding my state bar identification. I asked her. Rachel shifted the files in her arms. Bar status is not something I personally maintain, but his name is listed as counsel of record in the case management system. Then check it, Cole said. Rachel glanced through the doors toward the lobby clock. 9:25. 5 minutes. I can, but courtroom 4 is about to begin. Marcus spoke immediately. Call upstairs. Call the courtroom deputy. Call the clerk's office. Use the credential system. Pick one. Cole's expression hardened at the challenge in Marcus's voice. You need to remain patient. Marcus looked at his watch. I have been patient. My hearing begins in 5 minutes. Brooks stepped closer to Cole and lowered his voice, although Marcus could still hear him. His identification matches. The clerk recognizes him. We can probably clear this inside. Cole shook his head. I stopped him outside. I am finishing it outside. That sentence told Marcus more than anything Cole had said before. The issue was no longer what the evidence showed. The issue was who controlled the ending of the encounter. Marcus straightened his shoulders. Then tell me what fact remains unverified. Cole looked at him. No answer came immediately. Marcus continued. My identity. He nodded toward the driver's license. Verified. My profession. He indicated the bar card. Verified. Courthouse access. The credential. Valid. My hearing. He looked toward Rachel. Confirmed by the clerk. What remains? A few people near the entrance had stopped completely now. Rachel looked uncomfortable. Brooks looked even more so. Cole finally said, I need to make sure there is no security concern. Marcus's expression changed. What security concern? I'm not discussing procedure with you. You just changed the reason for stopping me. Cole's jaw tightened. Watch your tone. Marcus almost looked away, but he chose not to. My tone has not changed the facts. The clock moved another minute. 9:26. For minutes. Rachel looked toward the doors. Mr. Bennett, Judge Whitman's courtroom deputy is going to ask for you any second. Marcus nodded. I know. His client was upstairs waiting. The judge was preparing to take the bench. Every minute now had consequences beyond his own embarrassment. He turned back to Cole. Call the courtroom. Cole did not move. Officer, you can resolve this in less than 60 seconds. Still nothing. Marcus looked above the entrance and noticed the courthouse security camera pointed toward the walkway. A small red indicator showed that it was active. Cole's body camera was active too. Marcus let that fact settle his breathing. He did not need to win an argument on the steps. He needed the record to remain clear. For the record, Marcus said evenly, I have provided every credential you requested. The courthouse clerk has confirmed my hearing, and I am asking to be allowed to report to court on time. Cole stared at him. And I am telling you to stay where you are until I am finished. 9:27. 3 minutes. Rachel turned toward the courthouse as another door opened behind her. Someone inside called her name. She looked back, visibly torn between staying and returning upstairs. Marcus could not see beyond the reflection on the glass, but somewhere inside the building, the delay had finally reached the attention of the people waiting for him. 9:27. 3 minutes remained. Marcus Bennett stood beneath the courthouse security camera while Officer Ryan Cole still held the identification that had already answered every relevant question. Rachel Foster looked toward the lobby after hearing her name called from inside, then turned back to Marcus. I need to tell the courtroom deputy what is happening, she said. Marcus nodded. Please do. Cole immediately spoke. Tell them we are conducting a security check. Marcus looked at him. What security issue have you identified? Cole's expression tightened. I do not have to explain every step of my work to you. You are preventing me from entering a scheduled court hearing. I am asking for the reason. Brooks shifted his weight beside them. Ryan, maybe we should call upstairs and clear this. Cole did not look at him. I said I am handling it. Rachel hesitated another second, then disappeared through the glass doors. Marcus watched her cross the lobby toward the elevators. The courthouse clock changed. 9:28. 2 minutes. Around them, the morning continued with almost insulting normality. Attorneys climbed the steps. A delivery driver rolled a cart toward a side entrance. Cars moved through the intersection below. Yet Marcus remained exactly where Cole had ordered him to stand. Imagine having your identity verified, your profession verified, your courthouse credential verified, and your hearing confirmed by a court employee, only to discover that the standard keeps moving because the person questioning you cannot admit the original suspicion may have been wrong. Marcus looked at Cole. What fact are you waiting to verify? Cole opened his mouth, but Marcus continued before another vague answer could replace the question. Not a procedure. Not a concern. A fact. Brooks looked down briefly. Cole glanced at Marcus's cards. I need to determine that you are authorized to enter. The courthouse credential in your hand establishes that. Credentials do not override an officer's judgment. No, Marcus said. But judgment should respond to evidence. The words landed quietly. Cole's face remained controlled, but his certainty had begun to look more like stubbornness than caution. Marcus could see it now. This encounter had reached the point where ending it would require Cole to acknowledge that it should have ended minutes earlier. Marcus looked toward the camera above the entrance, then toward Cole's body camera. Both were recording. That mattered, not because Marcus wanted a confrontation, but because memory could become convenient later. Video did not need pride. It did not need excuses. It simply kept what happened. For the record, Marcus said, you have my driver's license, state bar identification, valid courthouse credential, and hearing notice. The clerk has confirmed that I am counsel of record. I have asked you to contact the courtroom. Am I free to enter? Cole answered without hesitation. No. Am I being arrested? No. Then why am I not free to enter? Cole exhaled. Because I told you to remain here until this is resolved. Marcus held his gaze. That is an instruction. It is not an explanation. Brooks turned toward the courthouse doors, and something caught his attention inside. Several people were moving through the lobby with unusual purpose. Upstairs, Rachel had reached Courtroom 4 just as the courtroom deputy was preparing to call the case. She explained that Marcus was outside and being prevented from entering. Judge Eleanor Whitman, already preparing to take the bench, heard enough to ask one question. Counselor Bennett is outside? Rachel confirmed it. Whitman looked at the clock. 9:28. Then she stepped away from the courtroom. Outside, Marcus knew none of this. He only knew that his client was waiting and the final minute was approaching. Cole handed Marcus's hearing notice back, but retained the identification cards. You need to be patient. Marcus took the notice. Patience is not the issue. Then what is? Marcus looked directly at him. Whether evidence matters once you have already decided who you think someone is. Cole became silent. 9:29. 1 minute. The glass doors behind him opened. Brooks looked over first. His posture changed immediately. Cole noticed and began to turn. Marcus followed his gaze toward the courthouse entrance. A woman in a dark judicial robe had stepped outside beside Rachel Foster. Judge Eleanor Whitman looked across the walkway, saw Marcus standing there with his briefcase at his feet, then noticed his identification still in Cole's hand. Her expression changed. She started down the steps toward them. Judge Eleanor Whitman descended the courthouse steps without hurrying. She did not need to. The moment Officer Kevin Brooks recognized her, his posture became more formal, and Officer Ryan Cole turned fully toward the entrance. Marcus Bennett remained where he had been standing, his briefcase beside his feet and his hearing notice still in one hand. Whitman looked first at Marcus, then at Cole, then at the 3 identification cards Cole was still holding. Her eyes narrowed slightly. Counselor Bennett? 2 words changed the entire atmosphere. Marcus turned toward her with the same professional composure he carried into her courtroom. Good morning, Your Honor. Cole looked at Marcus, then back at Whitman. Rachel Foster stood several steps behind the judge, watching quietly. Whitman glanced toward the courthouse clock. 9:29. Why is counsel for my 9:30 hearing standing outside the courthouse? Cole cleared his throat. Your Honor, I was conducting a security verification. Whitman looked at the cards in his hand. What are those? Cole hesitated. His identification. Which identification? Driver's license. State bar identification. Courthouse credential. Whitman's expression did not change, but the silence around her seemed to sharpen. And are they valid? Cole glanced down. They appear to be. Marcus said nothing. He did not need to. The same facts he had repeated for several minutes were now being spoken by the officer himself. Whitman turned toward Rachel. Miss Foster, did you confirm Mr. Bennett is counsel of record? Yes, Your Honor. He is representing the plaintiff in the Harris matter. Whitman looked back at Cole. Then what remained to be verified? Cole shifted slightly. I wanted to make certain there was no security concern before allowing him inside. What security concern? The question was almost identical to the one Marcus had asked moments earlier. Cole paused. Nothing specific had been established. Brooks lowered his eyes. Several people near the entrance had stopped moving altogether. Marcus could feel the reversal taking place, but there was no satisfaction in it. The judge's recognition had not changed his credentials. It had not changed the hearing notice. It had not changed his identity. It had only changed whose voice Cole was willing to treat as authoritative. Whitman extended one hand toward Cole. Unless you have a lawful reason to retain Counselor Bennett's identification, return it. Cole immediately handed the cards to Marcus. Marcus checked them carefully and slipped them back into his wallet. Thank you. Whitman turned toward him. Are you prepared to proceed this morning? Yes, Your Honor. Good. Your client is waiting. Marcus reached for his briefcase, but before moving, he looked at Cole. Officer, I want to be clear about something. Whitman remained silent. Marcus continued. Her Honor recognizing me did not verify anything that you could not have verified yourself. Cole's face tightened. I was doing my job. Then the question is why the evidence was not enough until someone you recognized repeated it. The words settled over the walkway. No accusation shouted across the steps could have carried more weight. Cole looked toward Whitman, perhaps expecting her to end the exchange. Instead, she asked, Officer Cole, when did you activate your body camera? It was active throughout the interaction. Whitman looked toward the security camera above the doors. And courthouse security records this entrance. Rachel nodded. Yes, Your Honor. Whitman's gaze returned to Marcus. The record can be preserved. Marcus gave a small nod. That was all he wanted in that moment. Not humiliation. Not revenge. A record. Something that would not depend later on whose memory sounded more convincing. The courthouse clock changed. 9:30. Whitman looked at it, then at Marcus. Counselor, shall we go to court? Yes, Your Honor. Marcus picked up his briefcase. Cole stepped aside. The path to the entrance was finally open. Marcus walked toward the same glass doors he had been standing only feet away from for nearly 10 minutes. As he passed Cole, he did not smile. He did not celebrate. He simply entered the building as the attorney he had been from the moment he arrived. Behind him, Whitman paused beside Cole for one final second. Officer, recognition is not evidence, she said. The evidence was already in your hand. Then she followed Marcus inside. The glass doors closed behind Marcus Bennett, but the questions raised on the courthouse steps did not remain outside. Marcus moved through security using the same valid courthouse credential officer Ryan Cole had questioned only moments earlier. Rachel Foster walked beside him while Judge Eleanor Whitman followed several steps behind. Nobody rushed. There was no dramatic celebration. Marcus simply entered the building where he had been scheduled to work all morning. At Courtroom 4, his client, David Harris, stood when Marcus appeared. Relief crossed his face. I thought something happened. Marcus placed his briefcase on counsel table. Something did. We will discuss it later. Whitman entered shortly afterward, and the courtroom came to order. Marcus opened his files. 17 years of preparation took over. The contract dispute was called. Opposing counsel presented an argument. Marcus responded with dates, documents, and the precise language of the agreement. His voice was measured. His reasoning was clear. Nothing about the hearing revealed what had happened downstairs except the clock. They had started several minutes late. Whitman never mentioned the incident from the bench. She did not need to turn a legal proceeding into a public reprimand. The courthouse already had procedures for reviewing what had occurred, and Marcus understood the importance of keeping those procedures separate from his client's case. Nearly an hour later, the hearing concluded. David gathered his papers and thanked Marcus. Were you really stopped outside? He asked quietly. Marcus closed his briefcase. Yes. Why? Marcus paused. That is the question they are going to have to answer. Downstairs, that process had already begun. Rachel had notified courthouse administration that Marcus had been prevented from entering despite presenting valid credentials and despite her confirming his hearing. The security office preserved footage from the entrance camera. Cole's body camera recording was identified for supervisory review. Brooks was asked to provide an account of when he arrived and what information had already been available. The timestamps mattered. Marcus's driver's license had been checked. His state bar identification had been examined. His courthouse credential was valid. His hearing notice listed the courtroom, time, judge, and case. Rachel had personally confirmed he was counsel of record. None of those facts had depended on Judge Whitman recognizing him. That distinction became impossible to ignore. When Marcus returned to the lobby, a police supervisor named Lieutenant Sarah Mitchell was waiting near the security desk with Cole and Brooks. Mitchell introduced herself professionally. "Mr. Bennett, I understand there was an incident this morning. I would like to speak with you when you have time." Marcus looked toward Cole. The officer who had seemed so certain outside now stood quietly beside his supervisor. "I have time," Marcus said. Mitchell asked Marcus to describe the encounter from the beginning. He did. He did not exaggerate. He did not speculate about what Cole had been thinking. He gave times, documents, questions, and answers. Facts. When he finished, Mitchell turned toward Cole. "At what point did you verify the courthouse credential?" Cole answered carefully. "Early in the contact." "And the bar identification?" "Also early." "When did Ms. Foster confirm he was counsel of record?" Cole hesitated. "Before Judge Whitman came outside." Mitchell nodded once. "Then we need to understand what specific security concern justified continuing the stop after those confirmations." Cole looked toward Marcus. "I was being cautious." Marcus responded calmly. "Caution should become reassurance when evidence answers the concern. Otherwise, it is not verification anymore." Mitchell said nothing for a moment. Then she asked courthouse security to preserve the complete video and instructed that the body camera footage remain attached to the review. Marcus watched without satisfaction. This was not the kind of victory that required someone else to be publicly humiliated. He wanted something more useful than that. "I want the report to reflect the sequence accurately," Marcus said, "including that my credentials were valid before Judge Whitman appeared." Mitchell nodded. "It will." Marcus looked at Cole one final time. "The judge recognizing me was never the proof." Cole met his eyes but did not answer. Marcus continued. "The proof was already there. Recognition only made it harder to ignore." For the first time that morning, Cole had no new question to replace the answer. Marcus Bennett stepped through the courthouse doors a little after 10:30 that morning carrying the same leather briefcase he had carried in, but the building felt different now. The granite steps were still crowded. Attorneys still moved between appointments. Cars still passed through the intersection below. Nothing about the city suggested that one ordinary morning had forced several people to confront an uncomfortable question about how quickly suspicion could become authority. Marcus stopped near the top of the steps and checked his watch. His client's hearing was finished. The documents were filed. The work he had come to do was done. Behind him, courthouse administration was preserving security footage. Lieutenant Sarah Mitchell was beginning a formal review, and Officer Ryan Cole's body camera recording would show the encounter from its first question to its final answer. Marcus did not know what consequences would follow, and he refused to invent them in his mind. Accountability was not the same thing as revenge. Accountability meant the facts would survive after emotions faded. Rachel Foster came through the doors carrying another stack of files. "Mr. Bennett." Marcus turned. "Rachel." She stopped beside him. "I am sorry about this morning." Marcus gave a small nod. "Thank you for coming outside. I wish I had gotten there sooner. You confirmed the truth when you had the opportunity. That matters." Rachel looked toward the walkway where Cole had stopped him. "I still cannot understand why your credentials were not enough." Marcus followed her gaze. "That is exactly why the review matters." Rachel returned inside, leaving Marcus alone for a moment. He thought about something Judge Whitman had said without ever needing to say it directly from the bench. A courthouse was supposed to be a place where evidence mattered. Claims were tested. Records were examined. Assumptions were challenged. Yet that morning, only feet from its entrance, Marcus had been required to prove the same fact repeatedly while other attorneys walked past without interruption. Driver's license. Not enough. State bar identification. Not enough. Courthouse credential. Not enough. Hearing notice. Not enough. Clerk confirmation. Still not enough. Then one respected voice had spoken his name, and suddenly everything changed. The irony was impossible to miss. Judge Whitman had not made Marcus credible. She had merely made disbelief more difficult. The glass doors opened again. Cole stepped outside with Brooks several feet behind him. Cole noticed Marcus and stopped. For a second, neither man spoke. Then Cole approached. His expression no longer carried the certainty from earlier. "Mr. Bennett." Marcus waited. "I have been thinking about what you said downstairs." Cole paused. "About the evidence already being there." Marcus looked at him steadily. "And Cole glanced toward the courthouse entrance. I should have resolved the stop sooner. It was not a perfect apology. Marcus was not looking for one. Why did you not? Cole took several seconds before answering. I thought I was being careful. Marcus nodded. Careful is checking identification. Careful is confirming a credential. Careful is calling the clerk. He paused. When every answer creates another reason not to believe someone, that is something different. Cole did not defend himself this time. Marcus continued. The most important part of what happened today is not that Judge Whitman knew me. Cole looked at him. It is that she should not have needed to. The morning traffic moved below them. A young attorney climbed the courthouse steps carrying a laptop bag and passed both men without incident. Marcus watched him disappear through the doors. The next person you stop may not know a judge, Marcus said. They may not have 17 years of professional credentials in their wallet. They may not have a clerk nearby who recognizes them. They should still be judged by what the evidence shows. Cole lowered his eyes briefly, then nodded. Marcus did not ask for another apology. He walked down the granite steps toward the sidewalk. At the bottom, he looked back once. Cole remained near the entrance beneath the same security camera that had recorded everything. The courthouse tower rose behind him, stone columns catching the late morning sun. Marcus turned toward the parking garage 2 blocks away and continued walking. He had entered that morning expecting to argue that facts mattered more than assumptions in a courtroom. Before he ever reached the courtroom, he had been forced to live the argument himself. The judge recognizing him had changed the moment, but it had never changed who he was. The truth had been in Cole's hands from the beginning. Justice arrived when he could no longer ignore it.